All right. So for this next episode, I'm going to focus on the pillar of strategy. So you've gone through the first pillar, you have entrepreneurship in the journey. You understand a little bit about strategy, which I'm going to talk about today. Then we'll go a little bit more into your offering, your product or service. Number four is going to be the people, the human part of business. Number five is going to be operations slash legal side. Number six is going to be visibility. Seven, financial. Eight is technology. So I just want to give you a quick recap about each of the different pillars as I kind of go down and delve a little bit deeper into those. Of course, I'm always looking for feedback. If you feel like a pillar is missing or something that should be kind of nestled into something, please definitely do this. But this is just going to be a quick high level overview of the strategy pillar. And the reason that strategy is so important is because there's a quote, vision without action is merely a dream. And one of the things that I think sets really entrepreneurial people apart is it's not necessarily coming up with the idea. And even me, when I started my business, I remember one of the jobs that I left, one of my bosses said that you're definitely an ideas person. And I kind of took it, and I still kind of take it as like, hey, I'm more than an ideas person. I'm an execution person. So I've been trying to really focus on execution, but know that I am an ideas person. I have a tremendous amount of ideas. I can't even execute on all the ideas that I have. So that's why it's so important that you have that strategy in place so that you know this is exactly how you're going to execute on what those things actually are. And I think is what's going to separate people, because you can have ideas, you can literally go into technology, which is another pillar, and all these different tools and softwares that are coming about with AI, but even things that have existed before to help you to develop what those ideas are going to be. The question is, how are you going to execute it? And execution is all around the strategy. The strategy is basically, I think, creating a clear idea of how exactly you're going to reach the goals and aspirations that you have within your business. So think about things such as developing a strategy, developing a plan, business plan. Even though there's obviously a lot of pros and cons of being able to kind of create a business plan, just know how important it is to create a plan so that you increase your likelihood of success. There's even statistics that say the more time that you spend writing down your goals or writing down your visions is going to increase the likelihood of that success happen. But know that many things go into that. Your planning process where you're trying to understand exactly where you want to be. One of the big things that I talk about a lot around, when I say everybody is a media company, when you kind of go through that course and understand exactly what that looks like, you understand that I often say that you can have the exact same business as somebody else, but you might execute it in a completely different way, largely because you have different goals and different aspirations. Somebody that has a digital marketing business that wants to drive home, thousands of clients is going to look at it differently from someone that wants to have maybe just a solo business and be a solopreneur and just do a lot of consulting to other entrepreneurs and business owners versus somebody else that doesn't really want to do anything but a course and just teach all their information. So each of these three people have similar businesses, similar ideas, but they're executing in a completely different way. So your strategy is going to be a hugely important thing. And the big thing about strategy is I think a lot of times people will kind of downplay the importance of being able to kind of take steps ahead and plan what that is. Don't get me wrong. You're not going to necessarily have all the things in place, which is why there's a big argument about the business plan. Why having a 30, 40 plus page business plan, a lot of people scarf at, because you get books like The Lean Startup by Eric Riles. Arise, I always forget how to say his name. It talks so much around kind of putting something out there, essentially doing it in a minimum viable product, an MVP, so that you can get market feedback. From that market feedback, you kind of go from there. So my thing about strategy is not necessarily the saying the strategy has to be long and extensive, but you want to actually have a plan in place. So going back to that first pillar, what problem are you solving? Thinking about what that problem is, how you're going to actually solve them, and what you want your business and organization to look like is going to be the next progression along the journey of being able to do that. If you don't have an idea about what exactly that's going to look like, then that's going to leave you at a disadvantage. So No, you can always kind of look into different things like your competitors and get an idea of exactly what they're doing to get a better idea. Sometimes the biggest kind of opportunity. And I think honestly, this goes a little bit into the visibility piece, that pillar, but it's not understanding exactly what's out there in the market because when you're trying to solve the problem, sometimes part of your strategy is going to be understanding what's out there, not necessarily so that you can pay attention to your competition, because I always say if you run your own race, you can't lose, but so that you're able to get a better understanding of what you're doing. And sometimes the best way to understand what you're doing is to understand what's out there, because that's going to open up your doors and opportunity to understand what is your quote unquote secret sauce, the thing that you feel like sets you apart and makes you unique. But it doesn't necessarily make sense to say, hey, I'm going to create a social media site that is going to have groups, that's going to have pages, that's going to basically be larger than countries. And I'm going to call it Book Face or something along those lines. Well, something like that might actually, exist. So you want to make sure that you're paying attention to what's out there, not necessarily so that you can emulate what's out there, but so that you can say, okay, this might exist, but where is it kind of falling short? Is it falling short in the way that it's marketed, in the way that it's executed, in its strategy in and of itself? Is it not serving the right clients? You start to have all these conversations, but that's where, understanding the market, understanding what's out there is such a big thing. And anytime you want to create any goals, you want to make sure that they're smart goals. Those smart goals are going to help you to increase your likelihood of success, and you want to make sure that you have the KPIs that are with it as well too. Those KPIs are going to be ways that you determine what success is. It could be number of employees. It could be your market penetration. It could be your revenue. It could be your total annual revenue. Whatever it might be, you just want to make sure that you outline exactly what that is so that you can go about executing upon that strategy and continue to kind of monitor those results. So again, the strategy part is not something that you should gloss over, which is why I wanted to make sure that it was the second thing that I kind of touched about, because I think so many times we fall in love with the ideas that we have, the ideas we're writing down on the napkin exactly what our vision is, and we're taking that idea and we're kind of running with it. But how do we run with it without a strategy? Even if your strategy is just to say, let me put it out there and see what happens, that in of itself is a strategy. I think it goes along the lines, although it's more technical, upon the framework of the lean startup, where you're testing out just to see if the market thinks it's of any value. But know that strategy plays a really big part. And a lot of times we will hear from people, especially on the show, that talk a lot around where your business is ultimately trying to go, what that looks like. Succession planning, those things. Are you setting up your business to sell? Are you setting up your business to hand down to your family? What does that look like? All those things become a part of your strategy, and it ends up being really, really extensive because it ultimately deals, I think, with where you are and ultimately where you want to try to go and everything in between that. But know that it can definitely be written in pencil. It doesn't necessarily have to be written in ink or permanent marker. You get to take those steps to see that come to fruition. So that's one of the big things around strategy. So again, we're drilling down into each of the different business pillars. You're going to see a lot of our content that's going to delve into that. You can of course join our community. We're relaunching our community, so you'll be able to kind of check that out to hear a little bit more about what it is that we're doing and why we're doing it. But again, a lot of it is to increase that likelihood of success. As much as it's great to kind of listen to these episodes and hear all the things, my goal was really to say, okay, if you're trying to increase your likelihood of success and you realize that you don't have a strategy, maybe you focus more on this pillar so that you can increase your likelihood of success. Or maybe you understand that some other aspect or some other pillar is going to be more important for your business. And it's not to say that you do all the things, you just want to be aware of all the things. Very similarly to, I say, like going to the grocery store, figuring out what the ingredients are. You want to know all the aspects of business so that you can increase your likelihood of success, even though you're not going to be focusing on every single aspect. So this is Gresh signing out. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I'm looking forward to delving a little bit deeper into each of the different pillars.